In the UK, it is necessary to have a TV licence to watch or record television live as it is being broadcast. The current cost of a TV licence is £154.50 per household per year. And this generates around £4 billion in revenue each year. Most of this money goes to the BBC to fund their television, radio and online services. In recent years, the BBC has received some heavy criticism. Not just for the scandalous amounts of money it pays to some of its presenters and managerial staff, but also for the heavy-handed methods that it uses to collect this money from the general public. The BBC use a company called Capita to collect the licence fee from the public. Capita does this by assuming that the occupiers of every household in the UK are watching live TV in their homes. Each address that doesn't have a current TV license is then targeted with a constant stream of threatening letters, which are intended to frighten the occupier into buying a license. If these letters do not scare the occupier into buying a license, then Capita will ramp up the harassment by sending so-called enforcement officers to the address. Their intention is to frighten the occupier into buying a license, or to provoke the occupier into saying or doing something that could be construed as incriminating. These enforcement officers are actually just cold callers, using high-pressure sales tactics to scare people into handing over their money, whether they actually need a TV license or not. These goons are paid on a commission basis. So, the more people who they can scare into buying a TV license, and the more people who they can prosecute, then the more money these goons can earn. So, of course, there is every incentive for these goons to unfairly harass and intimidate people in order to get them to pay up. In addition, these goons never seem to be held accountable when they resort to deceitful and aggressive behavior.
That's my personal thing.
That's assault. I'm getting you done for assault. Can I please have your name, please?
No, you can't.
Please can I have your name?
Go and get me done.
That's assault.
Phone the police.
You just hit me in the face.
I did not hit you in the
face.
Prove it.
So, for those of us who want to be legally license-free, what can we do to avoid becoming a victim of BBC TV licensing harassment? This video aims to provide the answer to that question.
No one should be compelled in a free country to buy something against their will, and that is an important principle.
It has been asking for trouble because it has got too big, it's got too ambitious, it's been too extravagant, too complacent, and it's lost an awful lot of friends. And I'm afraid the day of the compulsory fee is over.
I don't believe that the British people should have to seek the state's permission and pay for that permission to carry out mundane activities in their own homes, such as watching a television. It's the 21st century. Why are we still using a funding model that belongs in the 19th century?
I think it is high time that the BBC licence fee needs to go once and for all. I mean, the lovable institution that many people refer to as auntie, I don't know who invented that phrase. It's completely daft. Doesn't make sense. I don't see the BBC as auntie. I see the BBC as a wicked, evil, manipulating stepmother. That's the best way to describe it.
But the point is, there's no opt-out. You can't opt out. If you've got an aerial, you will automatically be receiving the BBC. If you're paying for your Virgin package, on that will be the BBC. It's on everything. You can't opt out. And this is my beef with the BBC. When you've got a service like Netflix, they're quite simple. Here's all our content. If you want it, pay us. But we're not going to give it you and then say, oh, you've received it now, pay us. They'll go, you're not getting it until you've paid us. That's how services should work.
It's the fact that they're forcing you to pay a license because you've got a television. It's like if they came out of like forcing you to have to pay for a radio. You should have, in today's world, you have an option to be with Netflix. You have an option to be with Amazon. You have an option to be with Virgin. BBC's not giving you no options to opt out. They're trying to say to you, well, you've got to remove a television.
They send letters using terms like investigation and enforcement and courts to try and create the illusion that they have the power of the law behind them. They don't. I don't have a TV licence because I have no lawful reason to have one. I don't watch live television. my life and my family's life dictates that we have to pick and choose. And actually that suits us better. We get to pick the quality TV we want to watch when we want to watch it.
I'm getting loads and loads of letters about a TV licence. I don't watch TV. I watch things on the internet that I choose. I've no interest in the BBC. There's a lot of things I really don't like about the BBC, and and now they're littering my hallway with mail. What's that all about?
Here are all the letters that they sent me in 2018, and I weighed them the other day. 237 grams. They level all manner of threats at you.
You must be tired like I am with getting these threatening letters, intimidating letters, using all kinds of psychology to scare the bejeevers out of you, red fonts and large fonts and terms like court hearings and summonses and warnings and last final warnings and investigations. It's all psychology.
They're sending me letters constantly saying I'm a criminal because I don't have a TV licence.
These letters, they're not just designed to make you worried, they're designed to infuriate you. Anything they can do, anything. They want you to get in touch with them. They want to know your name. They want to know what you're doing. They want you to say something that they can twist as incriminating. They want to get into your property.
Your address has been scheduled for a visit by an enforcement officer. That's in orange and it's in bold. They've used capital letters E and O, so the words enforcement officer apparently have more authority than they actually have. What it should read is your address has been scheduled for a visit by a salesperson. But it doesn't quite have the same ring of authority, does it, that?
They are, quite honestly, cheeky buggers to be writing to me and threatening me with the fact that they could send an inspector around and I was on their investigations list. I mean, what cheek are the buggers? I nearly used a stronger language, a stronger word there. But, I mean, I'm tempted now to write to them saying, I understand you've probably submitted your tax returns this year, but I may have to pop round to your offices to check and to run through your accounts. Because, like, what right have they got to come to my house and expect to be let in to see if I've got a TV? I haven't denied I've got a TV, I have got a TV, I just don't use it for the purposes that I'd need a licence for.
Don't ever respond to these letters. Don't ever post them back. There's always an address on the back here, look. This is my latest one. Didn't even bother opening it, as you can see, look. There's no return address on the back. Don't send it back. That gives your address as being live, and they'll keep pursuing it, and they'll keep coming back and back and back. The longer you ignore them for, the more they give up on you. I haven't had a visit in years.
Check this one out. Official warning. We have opened an investigation. Well, how about this? BBC, buggering British children. The investigation you should have opened a long time ago was the one on Jimmy Savile. You took our money, sponsored a nonce, and promoted him in all forms and fashion, and nothing come of it.
But as soon as I got the camera out, you walked away. Why is that? If everything you do is legit, why have you walked away as soon as I got the camera out?
Are you saying that what I'm doing is not legit?
I'm not saying that at all. But all I'm saying is, as a pub,
be filmed. That's
for what reason? If we're about to sign a contract, what reason?
Do you want me to answer you?
Yes, please.
Because I find it perverted, mate.
You find it perverted?
Yeah, I don't know that you want to film me, yeah.
I find it perverted that you work for the BBC, mate.
Well, that's my choice.
And that you want to go and support Jimmy Savile. I personally find that perverted.
I would like to share with you a story that broke in the Daily Mail. It's entitled Exposed, BBC TV Licence Bullies. Now, this story sort of exposes what many people have been saying in resistance groups for years, which is that Capita, who collect the licence fee on behalf of the BBC, are bullies. You know, they turn up at your door if you don't have a TV licence, and they can call at any time, you know, day or night, and basically start trying to pile pressure on you to get you to either confess that you've been watching or recording live TV, or buy a licence there and then. And I think there's a figure in there quoted that an operative has to hit 28 licences sales per week, and then anything on top of that, you know, is their own type of thing. But they must hit 28. If they don't, this question's asked, as to why.
We have what we consider to be a level that you would be operating at. We're looking to get 28 licence sales per week from each officer. As soon as you hit that magic 28, there's a bonus, a commission scheme that comes into line with that. We will drive you as hard as we can to get as much as we can out of you, because we're greedy. Everybody's target driven. You've got your target. I'll have a target of 12 people to get. My boss then has a target of 60 people to get, and so it goes on up the chain of command.
So let's look at this logically. They could turn up at 28 houses who legally don't need a TV licence, like I don't, because you've removed the requirement by no longer watching live TV. You know, you've sort of unplugged the aerial and detune your TV, and you don't watch live broadcasts, so therefore you don't need one. So there's, like I said, there's pressure on these guys, and it's just exposing the tactics. You know, there's a guy in there, a senior manager, man named Ian Doyle. He's been a bit of a YouTube star in the past when he was out in the field, and he's actually bragging about, you know, how greedy Capita are, and he's really sold them downriver. You know, it makes a very interesting read.
This is a form of harassment, definite harassment, probably even illegal.
We live in a democracy. I'm an ex-soldier. I fought for this country. I'm not a hero, never have been a hero, but I fought for this country and I fought for democracy. I didn't fight for the BBC, for them to put this unfair levy on working class people who cannot afford to pay it, and are now being ostracised, threatened, harassed and treated like absolute scum by this private corporation, the BBC. It don't belong to Britain anymore. They're looking out for themselves, they're looking out for their lifestyle, and all they want to do is threaten and harass us to keep things as the way they have been for years and years, to keep themselves in the limelight at our expense and in their comfortable lifestyles, on their first class travel around the world, driving their limos around London, drinking their champers, having their parties, all at our expense, guys. So there we go. You thieves. The BBC are thieves, skulldugger thieves. That's what we got here. We got skulldugger thieves.
A few weeks ago, right, I had a TV licence enforcement officer banging on my front door. Big, fat, intimidating bloke tried to intimidate me. Tried to bully me. Didn't work. Anyway, it was freezing on the doorstep, so he insisted he comes in. And you know what he did? He read me rights. Because I refused. See, I cancelled my direct debit online for my TV licence in June last year, because I thought, I'm not paying for it. Why should I pay for something I don't use? I boycotted the BBC a long time ago. Why should I fund their lavish lifestyle of champagne and mansions? Why should I pay them to tell lies? That's all I do. You hand the BBC the truth on a gold platter. They look at the evidence, they look at the truth, they look at the proof. It's right there in their laps, but they choose to ignore it. Protecting paedophiles for years and years and years. They twist this truth around and make it their own, to fit their own Nazi agenda. I will not watch anything to do with the BBC. I do not watch live TV. Ever!
So, on to the most important part of this video. How to avoid harassment from BBC TV licensing. The first rule is to become legally license-free by refusing to watch live TV. Instead, make use of the catch-up and streaming services available via the internet. As long as you are not watching live TV and you are not watching BBC iPlayer, you have absolutely no need for a TV license. So, go ahead and cancel any current TV license you may have. Next, ignore all letters sent to you by TV licensing. It is pointless opening these letters as they contain only threats and useless information designed to scare and mislead you. Next, after ignoring all of their written communication, you can then expect a TV licensing goon to come knocking on your door. This could take a few weeks, or even up to a year. But you can be sure that it will occur at some point. When a goon calls at your door and you already know it's a goon, simply refuse to answer the door to them. There is no law requiring you to answer your door to anyone. But if you accidentally answer your door to a goon, just tell them that you do not need a TV license because you do not watch or record live TV on any device. Then, shut the door. Do not engage in any further conversation with them, as there is nothing to gain from it. After this, you can expect them to send you at least one letter every month, and at least one goon visit every few months. Do not let them into your home under any circumstances. It is no longer a good idea to revoke their implied right of access to your property, as they might try to use this to suggest to a court judge that you are being evasive. If they manage to convince a court judge of this, then this opens up the possibility that a warrant will be issued for the goon to enter your premises in order to examine how you receive TV. So do not remove their implied right of access, which entitles them to knock on your door. This way, you are not giving them anything that they can use against you.
They've got a long list of people who aren't paying the TV license. So all they'll do is they'll go into the area, they'll go, right, there's 80 houses that aren't paying, let's knock on the door and scare them. So they'll knock on the door and they will lie through their teeth telling you that they need to come into the house. No, they don't. They're not the law, they're not the police. They have no right to enter your house unless you invite them in. Now this is the thing. When somebody comes around, official, showing a name tag, BBC license, oh, it's the law, throwing big words at you, you panic and you be like, okay, come in. I don't really watch the BBC, but yeah, I've got an aerial, but I don't really. Oh, got you, prosecuted. So that's how they get people.
You're under no obligation to purchase a TV licence. The only people that end up in court because of a TV licence is because you used this to give them the authority and the evidence they needed to prosecute you. Capita are a company that I've worked for Capita. I've worked in local authority and central government educational policy. I've developed IT systems. I've worked very closely with Capita. Capita are the scourge of the devil as far as I'm concerned. They have got their dirty fingers in that many dirty pies, it's untrue. But they use these bully boy techniques. They intimidate people that genuinely maybe can't afford a TV licence. So when these goons are sending their letters and knocking on your door, one thing I'd advise you never to do, don't revoke their implied right of access, which you can do under trespass law, but all this is going to do is aggravate them and they will get search warrants. And these have massively increased because there was, in the space of about 2 or 3 months, they had 5,000 to 6,000 removals of implied rights of access. All you need to do is ignore the letters, ignore the phone calls, never give them joinder. So what that basically means, when you have a conversation with an organisation and you give your name, your address, you're creating joinder, you're creating a contract within that conversation. That's the first way that they get you. The second is they have no right to enter your property. You choose whether you voluntarily engage with these individuals. My advice would be, if you don't watch live television, and I'm not implying anybody break the law, but if you don't watch live television and you don't use iPlayer, then you have no reason to have a TV licence. You don't need a TV licence like we don't. We don't watch any live television because we can get everything that the BBC and live television has to offer, but we can have it when we want it. There's not a single BBC show that you can't find through other means via the internet, which is not illegal to do. There are lots of streaming services available. Some you pay for, some you don't. But don't be bullied into thinking you have to pay this stealth tax to an organisation that actively covered up sexually abusing children. More people need to stand up against this organisation who have become a glorified mouthpiece for whatever political agenda our current government want. More people need to stand up against the BBC. Don't be bullied.
The person who knocks on your door, the first thing they're going to say is, "Hello, do you live here?" You know exactly who that is when they ask you that. shut that door straight in their face and make sure you're video recording it at the same time. Alternatively, you can stand there arguing the toss with them on the doorstep. My preferred approach, or used to be, just don't even answer the door at all. Any strangers at your door, leave them out there. If they're not your friend, they're scrounging for something, or they're going to try and sell you something you don't want. Yeah.
They're not getting a penny out of me. You know, me and millions of others, the BBC are failing miserably. You know, and I want to be part of that machine that brings them bastards down.
I do personally think that the BBC's days are numbered, and eventually they will have to embrace subscription whether they want to or not. They will resist it with every bone and fibre in their bodies, because simply they know what people will do. They'll hide behind the encryption. They'll just say, well, you know, I won't bother taking a subscription out and I don't need paying them. They'll also kick them in teeth for all those years when they was forced to pay for programmes that they probably didn't want to watch.
So once they don't get anywhere with you, and you don't comply with them, they're going to step the campaign of, they're going to step their vendetta up against you. Now this is the BBC that we're talking about, this national institution, right? They'll keep coming back until they get the answers that they want to get, and they want to get a prosecution, and they will twist anything they possibly can to get you in court. Because if they can't make 150 quid out of you through TV licensing sales, they'll make that money up through prosecutions.
These goons at Capita, they are driven to get a telly licence out of you no matter what, even if they know you don't need a licence. They love preying on the vulnerable people, people who don't really know the law. And they basically will do anything to get you to get a licence, and they will fabricate evidence.
There is nothing easier than doing nothing. And if you don't answer the door, they can't trick you. They can't pile any pressure onto your missus. Oh, you've got to speak to us because you can get a fine. I was watching a video last night of a repeat goon visit, and his opening gambit was, I need to renew the licence for your TV. What an absolute scumbag saying that. If he'd have said that to somebody that was vulnerable and not clued up, oh, I need a licence for my TV. Oh yeah, here's what I've been watching, how long I've been watching it for. 2 or 3 weeks later, 4 months later, boom, enjoy your court fines. So my advice, and the best advice you're going to get, totally and utterly ignore them, and it sterilises them just like that.
And this is a very interesting stat. 70% of the people that don't have a TV licence are female. So what it is they go for women because they think they can push them over a lot easier.
They will occasionally turn up and you'll get one of these if you're not in or you don't bother answering the door. So even if you do answer the door and you realise it's TV licensing, there's a good chance they'll give you one of these. But giving you one of these isn't grounds for a search warrant. They've got nothing on you. They come knocking on your door. You say nothing to them. You can't incriminate yourself if you say nothing. Do you know what I mean?
The problem is they come knocking on your door and they're waiting for you to admit you haven't got a TV licence. There's no technology that can catch you, and they're waiting for you to either let them in the house so they can catch it in action, or for you to admit it on your doorstep. That's how they catch you. This is a person that's not acting on behalf of the law. This is acting on behalf of a company, a very greedy company, that's doing shakedowns.
If you just close the door and walk away, job done. There's nothing they can do about that. Just don't be worried by these. Don't be worried by these. Don't be worried by the knock at the door. Just ignore them. Ignore them. They've got better things to do with their time. They want people who are vulnerable. They want people who don't know the law, can't speak very good English, elderly people, you know, anyone they can try and convince they need a telly licence. Do not let them in your property. They will do all manner of underhanded, dirty tricks to try and fabricate evidence. You'll occasionally get letters that come even in a red envelope. Do you know what you do with these? Just like you do with the other letters, you chuck them away.
The only way to get caught is to give them evidence. The only way for them to have evidence is to get into your house, which they have no legal right to, so just say no.
They will do anything to try and get you to engage with them. Now, whether it's shouting stuff through the letterbox, whether there's ones where they've like tried to grab someone's door handle as they're locking the door, he's not trying to gain entrance to the property at that moment. What he's trying to do is just enrage the occupant of that property, so he goes flying out of the house. What the fuck are you doing grabbing my door handle? Who do you think you fucking are? And boom, he's got you. You're engaged with him, and that's where the fun starts. He's gonna start asking some misleading questions. He's going to rely on the fact you're all pumped up with adrenaline and you're not thinking straight, and you're going to say something which he's going to be able to twist round, take to the magistrate's court and get a search warrant for your property. So you say something stupid like you don't have any device in the house which you can watch video on. No, I don't believe that. You don't believe that. TV licensing doesn't believe that. Magistrates aren't going to believe it. That's a good enough grounds for them to say, no, he's being dishonest here. Yeah, search warrant. Take a police officer. A real stupid one to do is a withdrawal of an implied right of access. So if you send TV licensing a letter telling them you're withdrawing the implied right of access, they take that to a magistrate's court and they just go, look, what's going on here? He's not going to even let us near his property. He's obviously up to something. How does he know about this stuff? Something doesn't add up. The magistrates are just going to go, yeah, you're right, here you go, search warrant, police officer. So don't listen to people who tell you to get in touch with them. Definitely don't listen to people who tell you to just let them in your house, or you got nothing to hide. What have you got to worry about? It's not that simple. You know, it's like a copper coming into your house with a bag of cocaine, leaving it on your table and saying, oh, well, there's cocaine in your house, must be yours. You know, prove it wasn't. And it's like TV licensing. Prove what they wrote down on their bit of paperwork isn't what actually happened. Yeah. The idea that we live in a you're innocent till proven guilty and that's how the courts work is bollocks. They have, you're a liar, TV licensing are honest. If you go to court and it's your word against theirs, they're going to believe them. Trust me on that.
TV licence is £145 a year. Okay? You know what the average fine is for a person? 170. Nearly the price of a year. So just with that, it's better to not pay a TV licence and just go 3 years without one until you get caught. You've still saved yourself 200 quid just by doing that.
If you do decide after this to cancel your telly licence and become a licence-free person, just remember they are going to be at you. Just keep your head, keep your cool, don't engage with them. Just remember, ultimately, you're the one that's winning because it's costing them money to send these letters out. It's costing them money to send those goons round. And if, you know, for me now, I'm best part of 600 quid or so they've lost out of me over the last sort of 4 years. And they're not going to get a penny from me. You're just going to get these same letters, and you're going to go round and round in a circle, and they're going to go nowhere. Just ignore them. Whatever they do, ignore them, ignore them, ignore them. Don't engage with them, just ignore them. That's all you've got to do.
So remember guys, the best thing to do is nothing. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. I'm sorry to say there is no silver bullet, there's no clove of garlic or, you know, crucifix or anything like that that'll keep them away. Forget WARA, you know, withdrawal of implied right of access. I won't go into that in this video because it's too complicated a subject. But forget all those type of things. It's not worth it. By far, the easiest thing to do is nothing. Completely ignore them. Make your address a black hole where information goes in and nothing comes out. Because it keeps them in the dark, as the old saying goes, keep them in the dark and feed them, you know.
Now, personally, I give the same advice that I give everybody when it comes to the TV licence. You hear this? Don't do anything. Silence and a closed door is the best way to keep these people out of your life. Doesn't matter what you do. If you choose to pay the license fee, irrespective of whether you need it, that's a consequence for you alone. I'm legally license free. I don't watch the iPlayer. I don't watch television. So I don't need it. I've got a friend who only uses Amazon Prime. They don't need a license. But goons will always still try and trap you. They'll always ask you questions. So if you don't say anything to them, you don't answer the door to them, they have absolutely nothing. And they want this. Not today. Pleasure doing business with you.